Hi guys, and welcome to Motos Got You. Welcome to the second part of how to gut the interior of the Pontiac Firebird. In the first part, you've already seen how to take out the seats and all the plastic panels and the seat belts and all that stuff. And now in the second part, I want to focus on how to take out the steering wheel, especially if you have an airbag, then the center console, the dashboard, the original dashboard, to make space and fix a few things. And of course the flooring, all the floor mats and the actual flooring that is covering the inside of the car, the cabin and the trunk space. So without further ado, let's get to it. First of all, disconnect the battery to avoid any issues or unwanted deployment of the airbag. Only the 1990 to 1992 model years of the Firebird came with an airbag. If your car is older than that, you don't have to worry about it. Now remove the 4 screws that hold the airbag in the steering wheel and pop it right out. Unclip the yellow airbag wire and your airbag is free. Now use the steering wheel pulling tool and it'll be out in no time. But be careful not to damage the horn mechanism. And this is how it looks like without the steering wheel. Alright, let's move on to the center console. KITT center console was based on the 82 to 84 model year, so the center console of those years was a little bit larger and more square than the one that I have in my car. In my Firebird, I have the later model year's center console, so it's a little bit slimmer, and it doesn't bolt on exactly the same way as the earlier version. If you have a 82 to 84 Firebird of TransAm, the procedure would probably be slightly different. So ideally speaking, you would want to remove the center console part and the upper square part that's holding the HVAC unit and the radio. You would want to remove that in one go because it's quite tightly bolted together. So if you remove that, if you are like you have two people and you can loosen it up in one go, that would be the simplest, easiest way. You can do it separately if you're just by yourself, but you just need to be a bit more patient. Remove the gear lever knob first. Take a screwdriver to pull out the pin and lift the knob straight up. Next, pull out the radio and HVAC bezel. Now you can remove the radio by taking out the 4 screws it's held in place. And then unplug all the wires in the back. Now remove the HVAC unit. There's no need to disconnect anything from it. Just guide it through the frame once you pull that one out. So this is the tricky bit. Before you can do so, before you can pull the frame out, there are quite a few bolts that need to come out first. And then once you can pull it out, the whole HVAC unit needs to be guided through. So that's a little bit tricky.
Those two 10mm bolts up here on top, and then below, behind inside, there's another 6mm down here on the left side and the right side over here as well. These need to come out as well. Apparently there's yet another bolt that's holding in this frame, which is down here. Looks like a 10mm as well. We'll go and tackle that one. Technically, once you have this bracket there gone, you should be able to, that's all that this bracket is attached, this frame is attached to, but because this goes up underneath these control unit here, I'm going to have to remove this with these two 7mm bolts as well. This needs to come out anyways.
And once I had the cluster removed, I had a pleasant surprise. Just as I had read up on the forums, I could see that the harness for the front fog light was actually pre-installed from factory, which is just hidden in the back. And that's why I had already bought a bezel with the 3 holes, so I could install a third button, the fog light button, and just connect it to the harness that was actually already pre-installed, which would make it much more easy for me to install fog lights by using the already factory pre-installed harness in the car. But that's a story for a later video. At first glance, for the center console, there are 2 bolts in the glove compartment and 2 on the shifter plate. Also make sure to remove the parking brake handle cover by unbolting the Phillips screw that's keeping it in place. Pull up the shifter plate and unplug all the light bulbs and wires.
Alright, the blue one goes here is for the right window switch, the white one is for the left one. here, this needs to come out first so we can pop it out upwards and then unplug it from downwards and then plug this back on. I took the bulb out, otherwise when this is up it would be on constantly. This here for the cigarette lighter. Plastic clip is for the main one, and the metal one here goes onto this side switch. So I was wondering why this wouldn't come out here, even though we had removed all the screws up here and over here, but actually there's one here in the middle which holds this frame onto the chassis of the car, the body. So I'm going to remove this, and then we should be able to lift this center console out.
Once again, it looks like I missed filming the actual removing of the center console once everything was unbolted, but I mean, since you can see what bolts you have to take out and what panels and what you have to unplug, it's like once that's free, you can just take it up, lift it up and backwards slightly, and then you should be able to take off the center console without any problem. Once all of that is out of the way, removing the carpet is a breeze. Start with the trunk compartment and simply put it out. In some areas, the carpet might still be glued to the floor, so just take a knife and cut through the glue. Then do the same for the cabin area. It looks like I didn't film the part where I pulled out the carpet in the cabin area, but at least now you already have a peek of how it looks like with the sound deadening and the new speakers installed. Now the last part I want to show you is how to take the dash pad off and how to access the gauge cluster, how to take that one out. Because you might just want to change the front speakers, then that's good to know how to take the dash pad, how to access that. And the gauge cluster, sometimes maybe there's just a light bulb to change, sometimes you have to fix something inside it, or in the Knight Rider area you might also want to connect your KITT dashboard to the gauge cluster, so the KITT dashboard with all the information can read the speedometer, the RPM, like the water temperature or the engine oil pressure, the mileage, and all these things that you can connect depending on what electronics you use. And speaking of which, if you've been following me also on Instagram, you probably also already know that I recently got a visit from Swiss Knight 2000. He has a really nice white kit, and I helped him install his KITT dashboard. He already had the dashboard prepared and wired up. He's using the ZA Electronics from Italy. It's a really nice set of electronics that you might have, if you're into the hobby, you might have already seen it on different Knight Rider replicas. Anyways, he came over and I helped him install his wire up his dashboard and install it.
A little higher. Oh, no, lower. Stop. That's it.
And for that, you can see that you have to take the gauge cluster out and wire or solder different wires from the KITT dashboard to the respective areas in the back of the gauge cluster so that the KITT dashboard can read all the necessary information. Long story short, it was quite easy actually to finish this up, and we had a great time. And on that note, I want to invite you also to check out Swiss Knight 2000's blog and Instagram page and YouTube channel. Subscribe to that also. He has a really nice white kit, obviously already with the nice KITT dashboard, and he's been recently adding some gadgets with the new scanner, and he's continuously improving it. And I can only recommend you to check out his social media presence as well. The dash pad is bolted onto the car by 4 long 7mm screws in the defrost vent area and another 8 short 7mm screws under the lip of the pad. Take them out and simply lift the dash pad out. Now you need to access the grey plastic bezel that is covering the gauge cluster. This needs to come out next. It's partially held in by the dash pad bolts I've already removed, and there are 4 more screws at the bottom of it. Take them out and the bezel is free. The gauge cluster itself is bolted in by 6 bolts. They are easy access, but once that's done, you might hit a small hurdle.
Obviously this gauge cluster is not coming out with the steering column being all the way up there. So I first need to loosen the bolts that are actually holding the steering column up. One here, and then one there, 13mm. But I might actually also have to remove this bracket here, to loosen it, just to get access to the inner bolts first. Alright, this bracket is gone and these bolts have been loosened up and take them off completely. Now this is further down. I can lift this out just fine. Yep.
Now you have access to swap out the broken light bulb, or as shown before, do some soldering for your Knight Rider dashboard. Alright guys, now you know everything about how to gut the interior of your Pontiac Firebird, your 3rd generation F-body. So mostly works also for the Chevrolet Camaro of the same generation. And you can go ahead and work on what you have to work on to change or fix or add on or whatever it is you have to do. Anyways, the next video will be about how to remove the body panels of the car, since to make it a kit replica I had to change a few things, and to paint all these panels they had to come off anyway. So on how to remove the front of the car, the front bumper cover, the hood, since I changed from the flat standard hood to the early model TransAm with the bulge, or later model Formula hood is the same hood, the front fenders and the rear bumper cover, as well as the inside of the bumper. So thank you all for watching and see you all next time.